Hello and welcome to our beloved parishioners. I'm Bailee.
And I'm Ashley.
And this is Praise Be to Pod. Thank you so much for joining us.
Bailee, what's on your heart today?
Okay, so a few weeks ago, I mentioned to the parishioners that I recently signed up for a Costco membership. Mm-hmm. So I've been trying it out, and it's pretty great. That's where I've been getting all of my gas lately because it's under $4.
Oh my God.
No, it's crazy. It was like
so expensive.
$3.79 in Maplewood, which is wild. It's like,
wow,
$4.29 here right now. But anyway, so one of the things that I wanted to try that people told me I needed to try is their hot dogs at their little like cafe area, because apparently the CEO has insisted that the price of the hot dogs remain the same to bring people in. Same with the rotisserie chicken.
Yeah.
So I decided I'm going to have dinner at Costco the night I was there, which was a couple nights ago. And I went and I spent like $1.50 for a hot dog and a soda.
Yeah.
And it was delicious.
It's
like,
great.
I think going forward, like I'm going to do that as, my little recession indicator dinner.
Yeah. Little treat.
Yeah. So I've just been thinking about like all these different hacks and ways I can just feed off of Costco for the next few years.
Totally.
Until Jesus comes back and fixes everything. But yeah, that's what I've been thinking about.
Wow.
Pretty short and sweet for me today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
What about you? What's on your heart?
Okay. I was listening to Girls Gotta Eat, a podcast.
Yeah. We saw them live once, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I love Girls Gotta Eat. And they had Tunde Oyunayan on there, and she is a Peloton instructor. Like that's kind of how she started her journey in the eye of the world. I don't know. And now she's an author and more than that. But like she started as a Peloton instructor, and that's like a very, very competitive environment because it's like video content.
Yeah.
It's like a big deal. Like the Peloton instructors have big personalities, and everyone knows Cody Rigsby.
I don't know. All I know is the one with the video of the woman, and there was somebody who signed on with an inappropriate name. Have you seen that video?
I don't know.
And she's like, I'm mad. She makes everyone, I think it was like a play on the word, like, it was like pedophile. And she really didn't like that.
Yeah, gross.
And she's like, get them out of here, permanently block them. And she's like, all right, ladies. And she just like makes everyone go quicker. And she's like, I ain't the one. And I was like, holy shit, this is so hot.
Amazing video.
Anyway, that's the one I think of when it comes to mind. But please continue.
Yeah, like I'm not a big Peloton girly.
Yeah, same
I don't
here,
have one.
if you can believe it.
But anyway, she was on there and she was saying like when she was auditioning for this job, she like had a vision that she was going to get it, and like she knew it was going to be for her, and she didn't get the job. And then she ended up getting it later. But she explained like sometimes I'm ready for the job, but they're not ready for me.
Yeah.
Like sometimes the opportunity isn't ready for you. It's not that there's something wrong with you. And it was like so great to hear, honestly.
That is really comforting.
Yes.
Especially when you...
It's like it's not always my fault.
Yeah. Especially when you receive a lot of rejection, like one after another. Like sometimes a prophet is never welcome in their own hometown. Like you're just ahead of the curve kind of.
And sometimes there's people in your way.
Yeah.
And they're not ready for you. And like right now I have my own clients, and then I also have a lot of clients through an agency. And originally the person who reached out to me from the agency had reached out to me right when I got laid off and was like, oh, I know someone who might be able to help you, and passed my resume around, and I never heard from them. So I was like, I guess they couldn't help me. And she said that person actually hired someone who didn't work out, and that we had to hire you to replace them.
Wow.
So like they weren't ready for me.
Right.
I was ready.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what's on my heart.
Yeah. And that's making you like feel better about a lot of just the negative experiences.
Yeah.
you've
I
had.
mean, it's much easier right now that I like feel employed to say it was all the journey. Like I get it. That is easier now. But if anyone's in that place, I just think stories like this are helpful because you never know.
I agree.
Yeah.
I've definitely had times in my life too where I've really wanted something to work out, and then I find out later that would have been like a complete shit show.
Yes.
Conversely, there was another opportunity that was better for me.
Yes.
That was down the road that, had I gotten the first opportunity, it wouldn't have happened. That doesn't always happen that way, but sometimes it does. And whenever it does happen, it's like a nice little reminder.
Like I remember this when I was single and I lived in Flagstaff, some friends tried to set me up with this guy who lived in Utah, and he like wasn't very interested. clearly.
Yeah.
But like I was still open, and he like he like checked all the boxes. Like he was also in South Varsity. He was tall. He liked games. Like what more could I want? You know,
Yeah.
at that time in my life. And I ran into him at the airport. And I was like, oh my God, we're getting married.
Really?
Yeah. And then he was like, oh, I was like, oh, I have an 8-hour layover. And he was like, well, let's go get some dinner.
Shit.
Like took me on a date from the airport. It was like
That's so serendipitous.
so serendipitous, like so rom-com, and had a great date, and it was fun. And I never heard from him again, you know, and then I'd have to see him at like work stuff.
Yeah.
Once a year or whatever, when our like region got together.
And he was in Utah, you said?
Yeah.
Was his name Warren Jeffs by chance?
No.
Because that was such a missed opportunity.
He was not a psychopath, but I do know that like I would have not liked him down the road.
Right.
I don't think, and obviously he knew better too. It's just like
Maybe God was warning him about you.
maybe.
Sometimes I wonder that. Like, I'm like, I'm not always
Yeah.
super well up here. Like maybe people are being saved from me.
Yeah.
This is always a possibility.
Maybe the opportunity just isn't ready for you.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, kind of brings us into our topic for today, which is essentially spiritual bypassing. And I have a quick little game for you, Bailee. I need to pull it up on my computer because I had to put it in a separate spot so you didn't see.
I love it when that happens.
Okay, so the game is processing or bypassing.
Okay.
So I'm going to read statements, and you will tell me if you think they sound like healthy processing or potential spiritual bypassing.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay? Everything happens for a reason.
I mean, in some ways, that's kind of just what we talked about. But when shit is actually going down, that's the last thing you want to hear. So I'm going to say that that's spiritual bypassing.
I like to say everything happens for no reason.
That's a good
That's
one,
one of
too.
my favorite sayings.
Yeah. No, I would say that's mostly spiritual bypassing. Even if it's true, it's never what you want to hear in the moment.
Yes.
And it's not helpful.
I just need to pray about it.
Well, if you're not a prayerful person, that means nothing to you. In fact, it can be particularly condescending. But a lot of people find wisdom and comfort in prayer. So I would say dealer's choice.
Okay. What about Jesus take the wheel?
Oh, that's always processing. I always say Jesus take the wheel.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah. Jesus take the wheel.
Yep.
How about one day after another?
I think that's processing. That's a good one.
One day at a time. Same
Yep.
thing. Yep.
Yep.
Agreed. How about leave it at the feet of Jesus?
For me, that would be spiritual bypassing, but I'm sure that there's a Southern Baptist mom somewhere who's praying 12 hours a day for her grandkids and that she finds a lot of comfort in laying things at the feet of Jesus. So I would say to each their own on that.
This is an all-time favorite. God won't give you more than you can handle.
Oh, that is spiritual bypassing because that motherfucker will. And he likes it.
I know. Yes. I remember when I was a missionary, one of the like long-term missionaries, like she had lived there like 25 years, which is insane. She was like, I can't handle anything.
Right.
That's why I need God.
Right.
She was like so mad about that like Western saying.
That's also just so easy to disprove because of the sheer fact that people die.
Yeah. Like the sheer fact of the stories in the Bible.
Right. Like the reason people die is because something is happening that their body can no longer handle and everybody does it.
Yeah.
So that is like so objectively not true. Like God does give, or the universe or whatever, life gives you far more than you can handle.
I'm choosing joy.
You can say that about yourself.
Choose joy.
To choose joy, but I don't think you can tell other people to choose joy.
Agreed. How about I just don't want to speak negativity over my life?
Oh man. That is so context specific because there's probably a benefit to being careful with how you talk about a situation if you're trying to reframe your perspective of it. And also, like, that's so annoying when you just want to like vent and somebody is like, don't speak negatively about the situation when the situation objectively sucks. So I would say that probably is more spiritual bypassing typically. What do you think?
I forgot what the topic was. I forgot what the phrase was.
Oh, it was the don't speak negatively over your life.
Oh, because I was thinking about the next one.
Don't speak negativity into your life. Is what it was.
I think it's frustrating because I've been told that a lot by particularly positive people, and I'm a particularly negative person, and I want to be negative sometimes and fuck off.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Okay. So spiritual bypassing.
I feel like don't tell me what to do at all, especially in crisis. Like when I'm really stressed or really frustrated, it's invalidating and frustrating.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of these things that we've talked about, I think, are okay to do for yourself.
Yes.
And when you say it to other people, that's when it is not maybe appropriate.
But I also think you can spiritually bypass yourself.
Oh, shit. Man, this is going to be a long episode, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay. So in case you don't know the term, what would you say spiritual bypassing is?
I would say spiritual bypassing is when somebody, whether it's yourself or somebody else, gives an overly spiritual explanation to explain away a very difficult and carnal situation. So an example of that would be some of the things we talked about. Like, let's say you have a crisis in your life. Like, let's say you lose your job and someone comes to you and says, everything happens for a reason, or maybe it's a plan of God. And you're like, yeah, maybe, but also this sucks. So it's basically just like a dismissive way that overly spiritual or religious people try to explain how your pain is for some type of higher good or calling, and then therefore dismissing like the present moment of discomfort. Would you say that's a good explanation, or do you have any?
No, it's great. Okay. I just didn't realize how mad it was going to make me to talk about this. I already feel so fucking mad.
And we only gave the definition.
God, I'm mad already. Okay. So that's my first reaction to it.
Okay, let me ask you, what about that just now? Because you have not, I mean, yes, this podcast garners a lot of emotions. I have not seen you yet, a year in, have such a visceral reaction to anything that's been said. What about that is so triggering to you?
I'm triggered by a lot of it.
But this point, you were pretty vocal about this just now. What about it?
Yeah. I feel like when I was at the end of my journey and trying to still be a Christian, which is when I went the pathway of charismatic Christianity, because I feel like it was either out for me or something completely off the wall, like charismatic Christianity, where I believed in miracles and like gold dust and crazy shit that God could do. Because like it had to be something crazy or I was out.
Right.
I really dove into that world for a good 5-6 years. And this is the kind of stuff I was met with over and over again. Yeah. And this was a very painful time in my life. And I felt like that church in that environment, this was when I lived in Florida, that church in that environment was full of people with horrifying stories when I would hear them, but they were never validated. They were constantly bypassed by some spiritual idea. Like, and I did like a marriage class there, like one of those super spiritual Bethel classes. It was called Love After Marriage. We called it Lamb.
That's hot.
So if anyone else has done Love After Marriage, I'd love to hear your
Is that like keeping the flame alive and keeping things spicy after you say I do?
Oh, totally.
Oh.
It's like,
I mean, that doesn't at face value sound so bad.
It was
but what about it was like, toxic?
So me and my ex-husband were like the most recent married couple there, because I think we'd been married for like a few months.
Okay.
And most people had been married for 20 years, 30 years, and they were trying to like not get divorced.
Right.
You know, or they're like really struggling. So they did this class. We did this class because we were like, why not?
Right.
What else do we have to do? We just got married.
Yeah.
So we'll join the other people and learn.
Was it by chance already feeling like it maybe wasn't working?
Maybe.
Were you maybe also trying to not get divorced a few months in?
And I remember hearing some of the stories in that class, and it was like, you know, a ton of cheating. It was kind of really crazy stories that we would hear. And, you know, charismatic Christianity really makes you be super vulnerable past the place where you should be, like telling people everything in these contexts. Like, we're in this special small group, and now we're just going to share all of our deepest, darkest secrets. And these are like 50, 60-year-olds who had been married for like 20, 30 years. So they hadn't seen some shit.
Yes.
And like some of them were like, oh yeah, you know, when I was really struggling with my marriage, I sought out a sex worker. And when I was struggling with my marriage, I left and went off to Vegas. Who knows what I did there?
Yeah.
And
so just like really extreme forms of infidelity.
Really extreme forms of infidelity.
Yeah.
And this is in a very, very religious environment, like hyper spiritual environment. And they were like, you know, I didn't know God like I know God now. It was just kind of that kind of stuff. And so everything was bypassed. And then like I think every gender cheats, but in this sense, it was men talking about cheating, and they were talking about, their cheating expeditions or whatever. And then it was just the poor wife sitting there having to like
Hear that.
spiritually bypass it herself to stay in the marriage.
Yeah.
And I felt like that a lot too. Like anything that I had going on in my marriage, it was not validated. Mm-hmm. It was like, oh, marriage is hard. Mm-hmm. Oh,
that
God wants you together. This is the battle from the devil.
That is a very common trope, I think, in like Christian counseling for marriages, is that the man does something so horrific and the wife proves her loyalty by like showing how diligently she walks through him or through this with him, and how like she can very easily get villainized if she decides she's out. Whereas he's kind of just, we've talked about this in the Shia Russell Brand Kanye episode, where he's just like this broken, like, I'm really trying. I just keep having sex with sex workers. I just like stumble onto them.
And I was villainized in that situation no matter what, because I was the big, bold personality and like the upfront communicator. And my ex-husband was like the charming one at first and the nice one, like I was the bitch in their relationship. And so like everyone could look at us and think, oh, they have problems, it's her fault. Sure. When like they didn't know behind closed doors, I was reading books to understand his addiction. Like I was reading to understand what he was doing. Like I was trying to understand him so much that I could stay with him. And like no one knew that but my closest friends.
Right. You were doing the work, but then you were fronting as more agitated. So they like, you were easier to villainize because the public was only able to see like the face value version. Yeah. So he was able to perform this hyper Christian while having all these insidious secrets behind closed doors. Whereas you're like, behind closed doors, I'm actually doing the work. I just,
And he didn't do anything like that for me, so it was constantly, I had to bypass myself. I was bypassed, and then he bypassed himself too. So like all together, nothing was happening. Yeah. It was just really frustrating. So that makes me angry. He was toxically positive in general. He was a 7 on the Enneagram, which I'm always really attracted to 7s because they just want to have fun. They're like the fun people in your life. And those kind of like a 7 on the Enneagram stereotypically hates negativity. Yes. So like any negative conversation, I couldn't have it. And I love a deep, dark, emotional conversation, and he wouldn't have any of it. Yeah. So I think that's why I'm really triggered.
No, that's really fair. That's an incredibly like traumatizing experience to have. Yeah.
And then I'm triggered too by that whole church because I would hear these horrifying stories. Like I remember they forced a woman, well, they didn't force her, but in my mind they did. I'm sure she willingly told the story, but she told the story of how she had escaped from human trafficking and told her whole story of like all of her sexual abuse. It was awful. Yeah. And everyone's like, praise God, she got out. I was like, get this woman a therapist.
Seriously. Like,
what are you doing?
It's not testimony hour here.
We don't need to hear about this. Help her.
Yeah. I actually took a class recently at work called Trauma-Informed Storytelling, and it was about receiving true consent to tell people's stories. And it was so enlightening. It was maybe one of the best work trainings I've ever had before. And it was basically because I work in communications and we have to deal with a lot of stories, actually human trafficking being one of them, or some of the stories. But obviously, when you're a government agency and you're providing services to people, sometimes when you ask for their testimony, for them to give their story, they feel pressure to because you're in the power position, because like you're the government, you're giving the resources. The same thing with that church. Yes, maybe at face value, that woman said, yes, I'm willing to tell my story. But is it because she was getting some type of benefit, whether it was community protection, whatever resource it was from this church? Like it's really hard to actually determine if true consent took place in that interaction.
Yeah, it's hard to know if it's even ethical to like have testimonies.
Is it really even ethical to know anybody at all and ask them for anything?
Yeah, like to talk to people. I don't know.
Yes. Okay, so getting a little bit more on track though, had you at that time of your life when you were going through that ever heard of the term spiritual bypassing? No. So it was later on. Do you remember like when you first started hearing about that term?
No.
Okay.
It had to be like the last 5 years.
Okay. So when you started, maybe you don't remember specifically the moment, but when it started kind of entering the zeitgeist, how did you feel about it?
Well, I remember hearing the term toxic positivity.
Yes, very similar.
That really stung with me, and that was like 2020-ish. And this is probably similar around the same time.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
And I was like, that's what's happening.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I'm not insane.
No, you've really seen those things.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, what do you think is that balance then between being positive in a way that's helpful and then when it gets like unhealthy?
I have a pretty high threshold for negativity.
Womp womp.
But I do think there's a difference between like complaining or venting.
Yeah.
Or like lamenting, you know, like those are all really different. And I think it's helpful if you're talking to someone else to say, I just need a vent.
Yeah.
And then they don't have to say anything. You know, like they know they can just be there and someone just wants to talk. Or like, I'm really looking for this. I think prefacing it is helpful when you're talking to somebody. What do you think?
You know, I'm trying to think. I'm kind of torn between this because I definitely grew up in a pretty toxically positive environment in terms of, because I grew up in like prosperity gospel and in like name it and claim it, like supernatural healing and stuff. But so I felt like I kind of veered the opposite way where I wanted to lean more into negativity. And then I kind of started to realize that like people really like to talk about their trauma and sometimes that can be a little tired too. Yeah. And I like to talk about it. And I sometimes think that even that can be weaponized a little bit.
Totally.
And so I do think that there is a benefit to essentially pulling yourself up by your bootstraps emotionally. And I'm not trying to say get over it, but contextually know when it's appropriate to talk about something. I do think that like there's a lost art in knowing like when it's appropriate to talk about something you're going through and when it's not. And so I kind of struggle between the both of them. Like there is some level of acceptable performance in how we deliver information to people. Like we're performing on this podcast. There are stories that we intentionally omit because they are more heavy than we would like to, or they involve other people. Like we are crafty in the way we tell the truth, but it's sometimes incomplete a little bit, but that's intentional and that feels appropriate. But some people might look at that and say it's dishonest. I don't know.
Okay, so I think this can come up a lot, especially in charismatic circles when they talk about healing. And I'm sure that you have something to say about that with your family.
Yeah. So I have mentioned this in earlier episodes, but I'm sure that, you know, we've got like, 50, 60 episodes now. So I'm sure that people haven't listened to all of them. But when I was a kid, both my parents were pastors of like a charismatic evangelical church. And we were really into like word of faith, prosperity gospel, even though we were all really poor, which is kind of funny.
That's usually how it works.
Yeah. But you know, being poor was a poverty mindset. Did you ever hear that?
Of course.
Yes. But because we all knew that, you know, if we had enough faith, we would be prosperous one day. Yeah. So, you know,
I'm not rich yet.
Yes. Trickle down economics, but make it evangelism essentially, or evangelicalism. So anyway, my dad was a pastor and he's really starting to get into like the word of faith theology. He went to Rhema Bible Training Center, which is where like
classic
Kenneth Hagin. Do you remember who that was?
No, but I know it because of all the ORU people. It's in Tulsa, right?
Yep, it's in Tulsa. So he was not prosperity gospel as much as he was word of faith. So basically, you have to speak the reality you want, and if you're going through something that's tough, you can't articulate it. So if someone was
a manifestation girly,
basically he was a manifestation girly. Yes. Yeah. So if you had some type of challenge in your life, like if you lost your job, basically their theology was the belief that you could never actually articulate with your own words that you lost your job. You would have to say something to the effect of, I thank God for my new job. You couldn't even talk about it in like future tense. You had to act like you already had it. So you'd be like, thank you, God, for my new job. Thank you, God, for this. Thank you, God, for paying my rent. Thank you, God, for healing me of this. You had to talk about your reality as if it was in the current moment, which sounds insane now that I'm saying it.
So legalistic.
It is.
But also like woo woo.
It's kind of hot.
Kind of weird.
Yeah, it's very woo. It's very witchy. But anyway, so that was kind of a theology that was embedding into our faith community and into my parents. And then my dad was actually diagnosed with cancer. And he was never able to, at any point of time, in the remainder of his life specifically say he had cancer.
Wow.
I don't know if I ever actually heard him say it. He would say, God is healing me of cancer. That's what he would say.
Wow.
And we were not allowed to, like, with our words, talk about it. We could talk about it in the context of healing, but not in the context of him currently being sick. So as he continued to lose weight, lose his mobility, lose his functions, like, we could not specifically articulate that he was sick. It was really, really painful. But as
You were so young.
yeah, I was 7. But as a child, I honestly, in some ways, wasn't worried about it because I was like, well, yeah, like my dad said that God was going to heal him. So I'm not worried about it. Like, I'm just going to live life how I am. I'm going to keep praying. I'm going to keep like speaking positivity over my dad's health. Like, God's got us, that kind of a thing, to the point where I actually have this memory. I was thinking about this today and I'm going to try not to cry because this memory is a little tender for me. But there was a neighbor that we had who brought over a bag of potatoes to our house because, you know, like as like a nice gift. And my dad refused the potatoes because that would be like an admission that he was sick to accept like meals from people. And that was really, like, thinking back now, I'm like, okay, well, mom was the one who had to prepare the meals and take on all the work. And like, obviously, like, you're sick. That's awful. But maybe don't refuse meals when you're not the one having to make them. But I digress. But anyway, after he was diagnosed with cancer, he passed away in 6 months. And that was like so earth shattering for me. Like, I actually remember that moment where my mom woke me up in the middle of the night to tell me that he had passed away. I just remember being like, this isn't possible.
Yeah.
This isn't like, I was so like, it had to be a dream because I was like, this isn't possible. I had also like been raised to believe that like people could be raised from the dead. So I was just like, this cannot be. I was told he would be healed.
Yeah.
It is not done. Like, there's just no way. And he did not raise from the dead. He remained dead. And I remember when they like took his body away, just being
From
like,
your house.
from our house. Yeah.
Wow.
I just remember, and they put like the sheets over his face. I just remember being like, it's so hard to articulate, but it was like my body was collapsing on into itself.
Yeah.
And I couldn't breathe. Like, it was just so heavy. And my mom was really great. Like, she held me. Like, it was just like very sweet and stuff. But I feel like because I was not able to come to terms with the fact that my dad was dying, that I was not prepared properly to grieve.
Course.
And that has impacted every area of my life ever since. Like, that is in my body. Like, sometimes you have moments of your life where you're like, the code is being written.
Yeah.
And that was one of them where I was like, I can feel that my body, like, you know, the book, like the trauma or the body keeps the score. I could literally feel that like my body was tallying like a score. Like, you can feel where I'm like, my descendants will feel this pain. It's like so powerful and in my body. And so that was like maybe my first exposure to the pain that is caused by not confronting the reality of this situation. And I actually recently had, it was just a couple weeks ago, there was a really significant day in my life where I officially became older than my dad was on his last day on earth. And it was really intense. It was like a pretty heavy grieving process. But one of the things that I processed that was really
do you want to explain like that phenomenon for
Oh,
people who haven't
yeah, I
heard
can
of it
do that.
before?
Sure.
Yeah.
So sometimes this happens with people who lose a parent like really early on in life. They end up having these really difficult psychological milestones where when their parent reaches when they reach the age that their parent was when they passed away, or if their kids become the age that they were when they lost a parent, it's like this finality where it's really hard to picture your life beyond that moment. And it's not in like a suicidal kind of way. It's just in more of like it's like you have been, because we look to our parents for life.
Yeah.
And when you only have a memory of your parents' life ending at a certain point, it's really hard to visualize it beyond that.
Yeah.
And so when that day came up, it was really painful, but it was really cool in hindsight. I really like I was writing in my journal and I was like pretty, I was hurting about this for sure. But I remember one of the things I was really grieving about was that like my dad could never tell anyone about his doubts while he was dying. Mm-hmm. And I just literally really like, I felt for his loneliness.
Yeah.
And as I became his senior in age, there was a part of me that's like, I wish I could go back in time and comfort him and tell him like, I know that there's no way that you believe this. And there's no one that you can talk to about your fear of death because you can't admit it. And I just wonder, like in those moments where he was dying, if he knew that he was unknown to the world because he couldn't fully acknowledge what he was going through in his pain and what it felt like to die at 31 years old because he had to word his faith through life. And he was also like a spiritual leader. So he had to be an example for other people. And so that's kind of like maybe one of my earliest memories and examples of like spiritual bypassing in my life. So I'm with you there, Ashley. It is maybe one of the most triggering parts of growing up evangelical.
It's a really harmful dissociation.
Yeah.
That's like, I had that thought when you were talking, like your dad may not have ever even had a doubt because he didn't allow himself to. So he had to dissociate to believe what he believed.
He may have, yeah.
If that's what he did. But for people who do believe these things, you can't continue to live life when it's contrary. So like, I'll be healed. He wasn't.
No.
So what did the church say then?
Oh my gosh, it was so frustrating. So, I mean, man, they really rallied to try to come up with an explanation, a PR statement on that situation.
It's complete Christian PR.
Yeah, literally
time.
is. It's crisis comms.
Well, he's healed, in heaven.
Yeah, that's exactly what they said, where they're like, well, technically he's in a resurrected body now.
Yeah.
So he's, officially been healed.
Whole once again, yeah.
Another thing was that there was, some paranoia that maybe somebody in our congregation had doubt in their heart because sometimes there's this belief in word of faith theology that if you are secretly harboring any doubt, because you have to have, childlike faith, that could definitely be the thing that you don't, because you're not manifesting healing then, because there's a part of you that doesn't actually believe it's really happening. So that there was a little bit of like a witch hunt for who's the doubting Thomas here. There was also
That's so much pressure.
It's so much pressure. And to be honest with you, as a child, I was like, is it me? Like, because I'm a kid.
God.
And I'm wondering, did I not
scrupulosity.
pray? Right, literally, did I not pray hard enough? Like all these times where I was like, I played on the playground instead of like praying with my dad. Like, was I having too much fun? Like all of that stuff is just so much pressure.
Why are we all mentally ill? I wonder why.
Literally. And then another explanation was that maybe my dad had secret sin in his life.
Of course.
Yeah.
Unrepentant sin.
That's gotta be it.
And like, I remember thinking over these concepts as a fully thinking critical adult, like critical thinking adult. I mean, like these don't make sense because the first time I'd really ever heard it was when I was in my 30s.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, what about when it doesn't happen?
Yeah.
Then we just create a PR statement for God. Like,
yes.
And I remember so many people at that church were dead broke, like full out in debt.
Yes.
And they were like, well, I just haven't found the job yet. And they could not keep a job.
Yes.
And it was like, get a fucking job.
Yeah.
Like, stop waiting around.
Yeah. Or
and
like,
get a job.
Or like go to the, like,
get a career.
Yes. Or it's okay to go on welfare for a little bit if you need
something.
to. But they also wouldn't accept welfare. Yeah. It was pretty wild. I will say too, a lot of, you talked about how like when you kind of joined the charismatic church as a Hail Mary because you were deconstructing. I think that is not uncommon because I think that charismatic Christianity finds you at your lowest.
Yes. I think because it is so different from if you're raised Baptist or Lutheran or something, it's almost like another religion.
Yes.
But it's still Christian, but it's enticing.
Right.
And weird. And risky. So
sexy.
I don't know if I did I wasn't fully thinking I'm going to leave the church or I'm going to do this. Now, when I look back on my story, I realize that's what I was doing. So that's me kind of some revisionist history figuring it out.
Yes.
From the back. So I just want to make that clear. I wasn't like, this is my last chance. But I can tell, that was getting into my system. When I was a missionary, it was like really going on. And then I moved from overseas and went to this charismatic church. And I was like, this is really and I had like experienced a healing at that church.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, there's got to be something God's doing here.
Yes.
Like I want to see more. Like who doesn't?
Right.
Sure.
And that is not an uncommon story
Yeah.
too. Like I do think that, my mom's experience with converting to charismatic Christianity is that she grew up in a really religious Catholic background. And so her joining charismatic Christianity is kind of like her deconstruction story.
Yeah.
So I think that there's a part of her that is so confused as to why I'm deconstructing even further from that, because in her mind, she's probably like, but we've arrived.
She's like, I gave you
Like
the
what
keys.
I know. And I'm like, and you did. It's a baton race, sister. Like, and my daughter will do the same for me, I'm sure. And that is the beauty of generations upon generations, and how enlightenment works and things like that.
Yeah.
And how generational healing can work.
I see a Jesus culture song going. Generations and generations.
Generations and generations.
They love that.
Did I just code switch again?
The generation and generation.
I know. But it is like, Anyway, so I think that a lot of people will fall into charismatic Christianity when they're at a low point, which is why I think when you go to a charismatic church, it's less legalistic and it's less pious.
Yes.
Because there's so many people who were incarcerated at one point in time and who have these really crazy pasts to the point where, like, sometimes people will talk to me about deconstruction and they'll be like, oh, did you grow up in an environment where you like couldn't talk about sin or you couldn't talk about sex? And I was like, bitch, that's all we talked about. All we talked about, because we were, I think, just like being saved from sin is the thesis. And so having a testimony is the coolest thing you can bring to a charismatic space. And so you do find a lot of people at their lowest. Also, poverty, I think, is a big one.
Yeah, because, unethical.
Yes. There's like, if you are a really poor person, it makes sense that you would gravitate towards word of faith or prosperity gospel, because you need, like, the systems have failed you in this world. There is genuine inequity. You need the divine to intervene in your life. So it makes sense that would be good news for some people. But unfortunately, the most vulnerable people are also the people who get exploited with this theology the most too.
Well, and I mean, at that church, there were millionaires and there were people barely making their rent.
Yep.
There were like cons, ex-cons, and it was just like, it was such a broad spectrum of people.
Yeah.
Everyone had an insane story. So it was very interesting.
Yeah. And two, I will say, to the credit of, because we had that same dynamic too, there were a couple wealthy people in our church. They were so generous. They really were.
Yeah.
Like, I will say,
it was political too. They had a say in a lot.
They did, yes. But there was a lot of like rescuing of people. And I think that, when the altar call would come around or the offering bucket and they'd be like, hey, this person's in a desperate situation. Like, I know a lot of people with money who would give a lot of money.
Yeah.
And a lot of poor people that would give a lot of money too.
Yeah, very generous people there. I remember like people buying other people a bike or a car. Like, I just remember constantly seeing crazy stuff like that.
Yeah. I didn't see a lot of stinginess in the church. I've never seen such just radical expressions of generosity. But I know that that's not universal, but that is very, I think, charismatic church core.
For sure.
Yep.
Is there any room for grief or anything if you're in this culture? Like, how do you deal with negative emotions?
Like, in this culture specifically?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is tough because the denial of grief is not as overt. So in our church, we would say things like, it is okay to feel grief. You just need to give it to God. You need to trust that God will take care of it.
As long as you do it this way.
Yes. So
what about questioning God?
You could also question God.
Okay.
But a lot of this, I think, wasn't super authentic. It was things that I think the charismatic church thought they had to say that so they wouldn't seem legalistic. Or that they had a spirit of religion.
Yeah.
So they, it was very come as you are, but not really. There was definitely a bait and switch. So there was an invitation to grieve and lament and cast your cares upon Jesus. But then I think if you did it a little bit too long, maybe it wasn't, then you would maybe get chucked a little bit. Or you were, dwelling on the past was a big one. Or maybe you hadn't actually given your cares to Jesus, because if you had, you wouldn't still be worrying about it. So there was this expectation that grief and transportation would take place in a really short period of time, and then you would be fully redeemed and saved and transformed by the renewal of your mind and the blood of Jesus. Holy shit, that came out of the archives. That came out of the archives.
And the something of your heart.
Oh, the renewal of your mind and is it with a T?
We're going to be smited.
Hold on, let's look this up.
Romans 12, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Gorgeous.
Then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will.
Oof, chills.
Do you remember? I had to memorize some Romans Road.
No, I didn't remember. I do remember that passage, but we didn't refer to it as the Romans
Citation BibleGateway.com. You never learned the Romans Road?
Well, we didn't call it the Romans Road.
No, you had to learn like the gospel in Romans.
No.
Like how to tell the gospel through the Romans Road.
No.
It was really lame. So good thing.
We used Kirk Cameron's tracks. You know the one I'm talking about?
I had to memorize stuff at camp every summer.
We did. Pastor Joss did drills with us, if you can believe it. Where we were like, this is how it was. This is what you had to do. You had to go up to someone. This isn't Left Behind, by the way. And you had to be like, have you ever looked at a woman with lust in your heart?
Oh my God.
You know what I'm talking about? And then people would be like, yeah. And they'd be like, well, like, then you've committed adultery. And then they'd be like, have you ever murdered someone? They'd be like, no. And I'm like, yeah, but have you ever been really angry at someone? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, so that's the same thing. And then they're like, okay, by your own admission, that means that like you are doomed to hell, even though you think you're a good person. And then you would have to take them through like the salvation prayer.
My favorite's when a teenager comes up to you and says, do you know where you're going to go when you die?
And, I heard that one too.
And I'm like,
where do you tell them? What do you
tell them?
Hell
with you, bitch. And then I run away. No, just kidding. I said, I don't have time for this.
I'm like, I'm going to be reincarnated into a little blade of grass. That's what I personally think. Okay, let's get back on track so we can finish this up.
Let's get back on track. Both of us have been through so much therapy. And something that this dynamic does not understand is that feelings do not go away.
Right.
You can't just explain them away by religion, which is spiritual bypassing. Like, if you have negative feelings and you never process them, it will make you insane and it will make you sick and it will make you freak out at your partner someday or, whoever is around you. You can't just let them be forever. And is that really the solution they have?
So what I personally saw happen a lot is that people would have these really transformative experiences where they would they would receive supernatural healing, whether it was psychological or physical, or something would happen where they felt like they were redeemed, where the burden was lifted off their shoulders, the pain was gone in their body or in their mind, something resolved itself. And I think that they genuinely temporarily did experience relief. And then it would often come back in some way. And then there would be the suggestion that maybe that they were letting sin back in their life or doubt.
So there's a new
or that the devil was coming to like tempt them. And that was kind of like a test to see if they would still align themselves with faith. That was a common one that would happen.
What did they think about therapy?
I think that they would prefer that you went to a Christian counselor.
Worldly.
But I mean, I'm in therapy now and like people would go to therapy, but I think it was basically they were afraid that you would become really worldly or scientific or woo-woo, or that it would be a gateway drug to voting for Obama. So they, it wasn't like ideal, but I don't think it was like outright as criticized too. Because people also had very severe mental health. And so to not treat it wasn't always an option because you couldn't necessarily you couldn't like front or pass as a healthy person in some of these environments. So we were like, okay, this person has like in really, really debilitating bipolar disorder. They do need to be medicated. They do need to go to therapy. So I think there was a little bit of like, you don't have the choice but to go to therapy, but that was, very situational too.
What have you learned about sitting with difficult emotions?
What have I learned about sitting with difficult emotions? I would say that I'm really honestly still in the process of it because I've really been dealing with a lot of resentment lately. And typically when I'm feeling resentment, it means that I'm kind of like blocked a little bit or like I have a lot of stuff that I haven't been processing. Yeah. Like I'm just like, what's the like word I'm using for? I'm just backed up with a lot of like anger and resentment. So I know that I'm not really doing it well, but I would say that when I'm doing it well, it's just because I'm not really trying to explain away my pain, and I'm just like sitting there being like, I am feeling this emotion. This emotion is like very real right now, and truly just like letting myself feel it. What about you?
Yeah, I think some of the tools I've learned in therapy is actually naming my feelings, which a lot of times when people try to name their feelings, and this has gotten me into trouble in a lot of relationships because I say, that's not a feeling. They don't actually say a feeling.
Yeah.
You know, they say, oh, I'm fine or whatever. But like, it's even anger, like I'm really angry. Anger isn't typically like a primary emotion. So like what's making you angry
Right.
is
People say
something
that.
you're usually sad about or, you know, a more complex emotion than that. And so really diving into my emotions has helped in understanding the emotion I'm having and naming it.
Yeah.
And even just processing that with somebody, saying like, I'm just really depressed. I'm really sad. I feel really hopeless. Like saying that out loud is helpful because then I can move forward. And the other thing is that if I'm having a really big reaction that doesn't warrant what's happening.
Yes, it's disproportionate.
It's disproportionate. I need to look inward and see where that's coming from.
Yes, because there's always a valid reason. It just might not be the
It's probably not
front-facing
related.
reason.
Yeah. So you're typically just triggered from something in your past.
Yeah.
So I don't know. If somebody's talking down to me, I have a really hard time with that. I get triggered really easily. Even this conversation should have been fine, but I was so angry right away.
Yeah.
Because I was triggered to my first marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And it has nothing to do with Bailee. Like if I wasn't in control of my emotions, I could have gotten really mad. I mean, like, I don't want to talk about this and left. When like I actually wrote this outline, so that'd be insane. But you know, even just talking about it with her, like, oh, I guess I'm triggered because this. That wasn't planned. I just figured it out as I was really angry and thinking of all those things that happened. Yeah.
Well, that makes sense.
Did you have more to add?
I was just going to say, because we had kind of made the joke earlier about how a lot of word of faith or spiritual bypassing is repackaged in like manifestation culture today, there's this belief that you have to almost cosplay as having no needs or desires and that you just have this limitless trust in the universe or God that like he'll provide, everything you need will happen to you and you're just not worried about it. Like you just have to perform like that you don't have any wants or needs or desires, so you're not worried about anything. And I personally reject that because I think that we need to bring back the art of desperation and acknowledge when we're like, yeah, my energy around this want or desire that I have is probably off-putting because I am desperate for it. And that is okay. Like there is no shame in wanting something really bad. Like, you know, I look back at the performance I was expected to do when my dad was dying, that I was, you know, that we just weren't worried about it. And I'm just thinking about all the intimacy we could have had as a family if we just were able to bond over our like mutual desperation that my dad would be healed. But we just couldn't even perform desperation because we had to just pretend that we were so confident that God would heal him that we weren't worried about it. And looking back, I'm like, I've never been more desperate in my life for God to intervene. And he fucking didn't. Yeah. And that's heartbreaking. And being able to express that disappointment and not always be like, oh, God's got a plan. Like, actually, no, like I felt betrayed by God and abandoned. And like, I think that it's okay to sit with the emotion that you feel betrayed when something doesn't go the way you want it to, whether it's big or small. Even if it's not a betrayal, I think it's okay to just sit with like that I wanted something really bad and I didn't get it. And that, for some reason, has a lot of shame around it in culture. Yeah. So, I don't know. That's something, too, that I've kind of worked on as well.
Yeah, and I think when I look back at people I've lost in my life from cancer, like I knew they were sick, every time I was like, they're not going to die.
Right.
They'll be okay.
Yeah.
And they weren't.
No.
And it's good to hope.
Yeah.
But... And I mean, I never said anything to them, but like I lost a friend from college and a friend from camp and two of my cousins last summer. And all of them, I just thought, well, they'll be okay.
Yeah. What do you think, like when people, because we're all going to have more of those situations where someone we love is not doing well physically and is at risk of passing away. What do you think is a healthy outlook to have where you are not, you have hope, like you have the courage and you're trying to front with the courage to persevere through this without spiritual bypassing. But like, obviously we can't just go around being like, oh my God, you're going to die. This sucks. Like you do have to kind of put on a brave face a little bit. So what do you think is like a healthy approach to that?
I don't know. I mean, it depends on your relationship with them. Like
That's a good point. Yeah. It's like how much intimacy do you have with them? Can you speak
I've
into
had
their
friends
life?
going through treatment and they were okay. And sending them a care package was kind to do. But me going over there and telling them they'll be okay would not be kind.
Right.
You know?
That's a really good point, actually. Yeah. I think it's important to know the level of like appropriate like mentorship you have in somebody's life. Like even how we talked earlier about how like some of these spiritual bypassing things are okay when you're saying them to yourself, but not to other people. Like if there's somebody in your life who is going through something that you have never had to go through, you might just need to shut up and listen and sit with them. But if you have been through something in someone's life where you see them on a destructive path or doing or hyperfixating on something that isn't helpful, and you know them really well and you have sat with them through a lot of vent sessions and you know that it's kind of not helpful anymore, I do think that there's a difference, but like you really have to have a close relationship with that person. And you also kind of need to have already put up with a lot of their venting to be able to speak that into their life and be like, well, like maybe we need to cut the venting a little bit. But for the most part, I think just listening and believing people when they are talking about their circumstances is probably the most appropriate way to go about that.
Yeah, and I think it's also a good idea to give specific friends in your life an invitation to speak into your life, like, or to speak into your relationships. I've done that with some of my friends. Like, if you notice something about our relationship, I want to know. Like, please don't let me be miserable before I understand again. You know, like, I know that it might feel inappropriate, but I want to know.
Yeah.
And I've said that to friends, and it's good to start that now before you go through the crisis.
Yeah.
You're the one who can say anything to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And giving people that permission. That's a good idea. I'll tell people that too. Like if I want to vent and I'll be like, I actually just want someone to listen or I do want advice or I do want a more positive outlook on this. I'll like preface it ahead of time to tell people because it can be hard to know what people need.
Yes.
Because sometimes I do want people to shake me and be like, you need to wake up and stand up and wash your face. But sometimes I just want people to sit with me. And
not everyone's going to like prepare their thing and say that ahead of time. And then after they're done, you can say, are you looking for advice? Are you looking for just a pat on the back?
Yeah.
Like, what's helpful?
Yeah.
Because I have all of the above.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
All right. Well, for our listeners, we want to know what's a phrase that sounded comforting at the time, but later felt dismissive or invalidating. Oopsie. You can let us know. And blessed are the listeners, for they resist the urge to tell hurting people that everything happens for a reason. You can find us on praiseytopod.com on the web and praiseytopod on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, YouTube, and Patreon. It is finished.